Hi there. This is my better half.
Hi.
And we are talking about tonight.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. For the first movie of 2019, we're talking about Sweetback's Badass Song. Now, I've been trying to get my better half to actually make a video on camera with me for quite a while now. So she's going to be doing some videos with me this year. They're going to be pre-taped ones.
We'll see.
Well, so what we're going to talk about tonight is the first blaxploitation movie ever made. And after seeing it, it's still blaxploitation, but it's definitely a more artsy, definitely more serious type of blaxploitation. Kind of like, in a way, Willie Dunham. It was kind of like a more of a serious one, like as well. We normally like the cheesy stuff, the Fred Williams and the Shafts and stuff like this. This was a very good movie though. So I guess first thing to do is to give like a quick synopsis of the film. And basically, Sweetback is brought up in a brothel. We see early on. Well, I'm not going to go into the specifics right away. We'll get into that in a minute. Two cops come by after somebody's murdered in the community. They don't have a suspect, and they want to kind of like impress the chief. So they want to take Sweetback in, say, okay, he's a suspect, then release him a couple days later on basically lack of evidence. During the ride to the station, a Black Panther like rally is mentioned over the radio. They go there and they arrest Mumu, who's the leader of that Black Panther rally. And on the way there, he says a couple things that kind of like piss off the police officers, and they take him. They take a turn basically, and because they're handcuffed together. Sweetback is handcuffed to Mumu, so they unhandcuff Sweetback so they can pretty much beat the crap out of Mumu, and they really viciously beat him until Sweetback, who's standing there, pretty much just can't take it anymore, and he takes the other handcuff that's free, and he puts it around his fist and uses it as brass knuckles, and beats the cops pretty much within an inch of their life, deservedly so. They're assholes. He helps Mumu escape, and then from then
running.
Yeah, then from then on, it's a chase movie, and it's pretty much seeing Sweetback like going to and being turned away from people throughout the film.
So before we get started with our commentary around the movie, I would like to, well, actually we both would like to put a little bit of a disclaimer around the topics that we are going to discuss. This is this as Aaron said, is a commentary by the director around the situation that African Americans lived back then. So the disclaimer is which is obvious, that we have a white dude and a brown person. None of us are African American, and we have not experienced. We don't have the history that is obviously discussed in the movie. So we will give our impressions around how we felt watching the going and what we know about the circumstances around the movie and the history, of course. So
basically we're going to give our filtered opinion, because we can't give like a completely unbiased opinion on this film, because we did not and have not lived that experience. We're just going to hopefully give the best view that we can as watching it through the director's lens. And he did do an amazing job with this film. And I got to put I guess we got to get this out of the way, because this is something that I'm probably going to get asked about later on. But the elephant in the room is that this was an independently budgeted film. He went through many ways to get this film made, and one of them being, well, because the sex is unstimulated with him in the film, he actually gets gonorrhea from one of the actresses, and he uses that. He filed a claim, so that for like injury at the workplace, and he won that claim, and he used it to make more, to buy more film. He also got a loan of money from a successful black actor at the time, and we do have to say this, and that would be the now incarcerated Bill Cosby. So that is a part of it. Who was like working at the time, I guess, hired to like black actors trying to make it ahead, and
he was trying to support and
everything in the future and all that, and it's a shame the way things turned out, but that was an important part of getting the film created. So that's
part of the history of the movie and the director. Another part that is very controversial, which happens at the very, very beginning of the movie, and can definitely turn people off. Certainly, I picked the movie not knowing anything about it, so that kind of was interesting. Yeah. Well, I think he used a lot of people around him, around the community, and I think even when the movie starts, it says whatever the title of the movie, and it says starting. I can't remember, but it was like the starting the black community or something like that. I can't remember. It was something like that.
Yeah,
meaning the black community, and then the name. Somebody's name.
It goes beyond that actually, because I did read up, and his and 1/3 of his crew is third world. That he didn't care about the fact that they didn't actually, that some of the people that working behind the scenes didn't know the stuff. He actually hires people too in the black community.
Not third world.
No, that's actually what he says.
Okay.
I'm not. This is not my words. This is from the director.
Just say that before you preface that.
That is that when the director was interviewed, that was one of the things that he said.
Yeah. Well, he used, and he does say, like, I can't remember now that at the opening there is no credit. Starting so and so and so. He just said starting the black community.
Starting the black community, kind of against the man type of thing.
Yeah.
Who've been held down by the man. Yeah. Something like
that. Anyways, the scene that is very disturbing is that. So again, as we said, this is a young boy, about 14 years old, who ends up in a brothel, and. It was interesting because the opening of the scene, you have this boy very hungry and clearly very poor, and with scars on his face, and malnourished,
very malnourished,
being given food by this group of women, and the group of women are all watching him as he eats, and he's very hungry, so obviously he's eating very fast, and when I first saw that scene, I thought the scene was very endearing, because I was like, well, it takes a village to look after a boy. But something bothered me, because it was still the look on these women was very predatory, and I still didn't get anything out of that.
I if you don't mind, I did actually. The thing that I got out of that, basically, so he's hungry, and he's eating the soup, and they're giving him more and more, and as he's eating, and he's showing like really malnourished, like there's hair that's clumped out there, and he's got like kind of like
scars on his face.
Anyway, so there, as much as his hunger is being filled, you can see the hunger in the eyes of the girls that are watching. And so that's why it is very predatory.
Very well, after, at first that's what I thought, and then as I was looking at them, I was like, no, this is a very predatory look, and I started thinking of the fairy tales, like the Brother Grimm's fairy tales of Hansel and Gretel, when they're trying, the witch is trying to feed the kids, so that to plump them up, obviously to eat them. Well, that happened metaphorically, I suppose, where so he basically is taken into the house as a boy that works there. So he's moving the towels and all that stuff.
Literally, that's what it is. It's towel boy.
He's a towel boy. But then one of the prostitutes calls him into her room, and then rapes him. What was shocking to me, I'm sure to you, is that this is literally a 14-year-old boy that really
Is a 14-year-old
is
boy. Not an actor playing 14-year-old boy.
This is a 14-year-old boy that is put in a situation where a very graphic situation where where he's having sex with or not for me, she's having sex with him and raping him, and you can see the look on the boy's face, not really understanding what was going on, because he's 14, and the woman really, in ecstasy.
She really plays it up there. Yeah.
Yes, well, obviously.
But yeah, he is like he is naked in this.
It's very
sequence.
graphic. It's very disturbing and very graphic, and I was like,
it is shot tastefully overall. Like,
no, it is very graphic. Let's cut the BS. And but it was very raw, very gritty. Not necessary, but again, who am I to judge? Because it was not something that I wanted to see. But again, it was a commentary on how the movie was going to be.
It's set a precedent. I think it is.
Yeah, but it was honestly it started high and kind of got lower in the grittiness. Like it was. I mean, nothing can top that. Yeah. Nothing.
Like I think we should like state that like when we see the boy first, and when it happens, it's definitely supposed to be like at least 2 to 3 years. So basically, he's supposed to be like around, I guess, like 10 or so, and he's supposed to be around like 13 or 14 when the rape happens. Because when we first see him, he does like he has like
he's a little boy,
scabs, and he's got like hair. But when he's a towel boy, he's actually his face is clear and that type of stuff.
So I was wondering, I mean, who the hell would put a child, into that scene? I mean, obviously this would never even be entertained today, rightfully so. Yeah. Any directors out there, don't do that. But apparently it's his son.
Yeah, it is a very famous actor, Mary Van Peebles.
I mean, this guy, if he didn't end up in therapy after that, I don't know what. But anyways,
he does stuff like L.A. Law and stuff like that, isn't he?
Yes, I'm very surprised. Shows. I didn't know that was him. But okay, so those are the I guess the scenes that. Well, that one particularly, I'm sure, would turn a lot of people off. I was shocked that Vinegar Syndrome could actually get the full cut.
In UK, they can't.
Yeah, well, anyway.
I was waiting for her to see that scene because I knew it was coming out.
Yeah, not pleasant in any way. But moving on. So the boy grows up, as Aaron said. What made me. What was interesting is it's different vignettes of exploitation of a black man in America, in a city in the 70s. It starts with obviously him being exploited by his own, being raped, and then being exploited physically for the enjoyment of a public. So like basically he's used to.
We should mention that scene, that opening sequence, because that it does like kind of set the precedent.
It was dinner and theater, brothel style, where you have a story that which again plays to a white audience. Of this woman who. Anyway, I don't think that it is that important. The scene is important, but I mean, it's not.
One sequence, and I would say basically what it's supposed to be is like this. It's basically a sex scene that's done for kind of like the patrons of the brothel. It is like sex dinner theater, and it starts out with two females. And they're having like sex with a.
It's very graphic, so you see everything.
So and there's the lights turn down and the girl goes and in the place it's sweetback pretty much. So he has sex with her. So the important part that I think to say about this is that after this has all happened, then the kind of the guy that's narrating it there, because there's a guy there's a host. Yeah. And he says, if any of the ladies would like to try him, he's a really good performer. And a white lady comes up to pretty much like gets up to and starts to get undressed, and they notice the two white police officers that are there, and their face was friendly, and they're enjoying the show, and you can see visibly, like, see their face changed, become very stern.
Well, obviously, a black man would not be able to touch a white woman. That was just unheard of.
Yeah, that, and I think
So-
it really sets a precedent for the Oscars. Like, oh yes, they seem friendly and they're working there with the
Yeah.
black community, but you know, at the end of the day, the racism, the bigotedness
Yeah.
shows out, and you know, I did think that's an important sequence.
Yeah. So, in any case, the again, to me, it just shows the multiple layers of how a young African American, is exploited in America back then. So there's the exploitation of his own, where again he's exploited to be a stallion. Basically, he's just, you know, a sexual object, which is very interesting because women are objectified like hell. Obviously, this is the 70s, so I'm not even going to get there. But they're predators as well, and they're predators. You know, they prey on this young boy. So when he gets taken, well, he gets told by the pimp, the person who owns him, really, to go and spend the night in jail just for show. To show that the police officers were doing their job, so you know, just to take him there. So when he gets told to go, you know, this is where the event happens with the young Black Panther, and then this is where he goes and injures or maybe kills the police officers. So you got the exploitation by his own. Then you got the exploitation. Now he's running out. Trying to escape. You see that he's trying different places. So there's the exploitation of he goes to the gangster who says, sorry,
Yeah.
I can't help you. He goes to a religious pastor, and they have a very interesting conversation about how, you know, even the pastor, really what he's doing, he's talking to these people, he's just giving them hope about something else, that, you know, that their life is going to be better, that they're going to go into a better place.
What he pretty much means,
he knows that there is nothing, there's nothing here, nothing is going to change. Wants to help Sweetback, but the work that he's doing will if he stays, he was going to jeopardize
the rehab clinic that's upstairs.
Whatever they were doing upstairs.
The farm, they call it, but it's a rehab
yeah.
clinic where these girls are like kind of drying out.
Yeah. So and you know, so there's, again, you see that even the good side of things, like, you know, this pastor who was preaching and helping out these girls to, you know, to get cleaned up and all that, there's a very, very, very fragile, relationship between them and the authorities, and very little can jeopardize that. So let alone if they harbor it. So everything is like, we can't help you because there's too much writing.
Everything that he goes to, basically, like pretty much, there's always like a higher white authority that their thumb has a thumb on every place that he goes to. And I think what's really important with that sequence there, especially with the priest, is that he says basically that he's trying to give hope to people that really can't do anything, that their lot in their life is their lot in their life. But even he, as a priest, sees the more militant group of the Black Panther as being the future of the black community. They're going to change. They're, you know, where he can give dreams and hopes and thoughts. They will change things because they will get up and they will actually do things.
Yeah.
He's there to help people that can't do that. But the young people, the Black Panther, the militants, the social, they're the future. And they're the ones that can change.
And he commends Sweetback for having done what he did.
Yeah.
But he also tells him, you know, there's no hope for you because they're the future, but you're part of the old way, and really you're really going to get sacrificed for the good cause. So, you know.
And what's
there's nothing he can do for him.
And what's interesting is that Melvin Van Peebles plays it that way. He's a very silent character. He doesn't say a lot. A lot of his like, and I noticed this, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but a lot of his kind of his style and his movement very much kind of parlays and like mirrors what you'd see in a lot of like of films like Roots, like the slave type films that will come later on. It was definitely like playing that, and especially the silence. Like Sweetback does not talk a lot in this film, and I think that was done like specifically on purpose to kind of to make that point that he is used to being like being exploited. He's used to being in his place, and it is uncomfortable for him to go out there. He is part of the he is a crossing part between the old guard and the new. He's in this weird kind of like place, kind of mixture place. He is
the African American of the time. Like he really, he really captured he captured the psyche of the African Americans at that time, where they're in between. There's something else is going to happen. They're on the verge of something, but they're not there yet, and they want to break free. They want to run away. They want to, but there's still so much holding them, so much holding him.
Yeah, it's a powerful message, and it is done
with all the raunchiness and all of the that stuff. Which I don't know if that would have had more impact with or without, or at least a little bit less. That's I'm not sure.
Art.
Yeah, sure. Another movie that had a very, very strong commentary was Ganja and Hess.
Yeah.
A little different, but still, obviously still talking about.
Definitely very strong commentary.
They didn't have that much. It was very graphic, but it was not as graphic as this.
No, but this
not even close.
It was a time like this was a time when this was something.
Well, I don't think they're done very
graphically.
No, at the time difference. I mean.
Well, there was more there was a lot more like nudity and that and like and more graphic. We were coming out of time in cinema when and this is a part of cinema that you wouldn't have watched a lot of. There was like an adult cinema that was kind of like burgeoning at the time as well, that was making its way to not to what it is today, but in a very different way, where it was meant to be something much different than what it became. It was meant to tell a story. It was meant to go in different directions. So he does use some of this. This movie was rated X at one point, actually, and they actually play that. They said, get this. So it gets rated X, and he puts out an ad that says, all right, ready for this? So rated X by jury of white people, which is awesome, actually. Great marketing.
He made a movie for he didn't make a movie for white people. He made a movie for black people. He did not, and he obviously exploited the situation, the times to promote his movie, but he did not film this for a white audience. I don't think. I don't think that in his mind, and again, who knows, but I don't think in his mind that he made a movie for white people to watch it. That was not his primary audience. Yeah, sure, they'll show up, obviously, but it was not made for them.
No, it was definitely made for to reach out and speak to a young black audience. That's what it's primarily meant for.
Wake up, look at yourself.
But it's done in a way to hopefully hopefully have a crossover appeal to that.
You know what? I don't think he gave a shit about white people. In all honesty, I don't think so.
I think he wanted it to do well.
I see.
He did want it to. He obviously Melvin Peebles is an artist, like in every sense of the word.
He's an activist. When he was making that movie, he was not an artist. He was an activist, and he said it. He said, I did that. I refused opportunities and all of this.
Well,
stuff
he made Watermelon
about.
Man before that. Right?
Yeah, but I think this movie, particularly the reason why it is independent, the reason why he used people from the street, he used. He just used whoever he could find. He went to the ghetto and used people in the ghetto, and that's that. I honestly stand by my point in saying this was not made for a white audience. This was made for a black
Oh,
audience.
it's definitely not made with me in mind. It was made with like
no,
for, and not even for the, and a lot of the audience of today. This was made for. This was definitely something that still is completely relevant today,
Yep.
but would hit a nerve so strong back in that day that I can see why this became so popular.
Yeah. So, anyways, so he gets exploited by his own. He gets exploited by he goes to gangsters. So even the other side, or the dark side of the African American community refuses him, and again, because everybody is owned one way or the other. So even those who feel that they have some kind of freedom because they're operating whatever they're operating, at the end of the day, they are only allowed to operate because the man lets them.
Yeah.
So he gets turned away, and sometimes even turned up to the police. So he has a few narrow escapes.
Yeah.
And then he goes. So he escapes with Mumu. Because he's also people are looking for, the police is looking for him, and they get dropped off by the gangsters, the African American gangsters somewhere, I guess the outskirts of the city, and in the woods, and they go and spend the night somewhere, but as they're sleeping somewhere in a shack, they get woken up by a group of bikers, and as you said,
the real Hells Angels.
They were actually, so he really went to all his connections to make this movie as cheap as he could, and this is where a weird sequence happens where, because again it's all about exploitation and him being exploited by everyone. So these Hells Angels who are white, and another fringe part of society, see him again as an object, and they want to challenge him, his physicality. Everybody's just looking at him in a physical way. So he really is looked at a choice to either have a fight with challenge this big guy, this big biker. And again, because the way it's filmed is very confusing, or what really happens is that he gets challenged by this woman, who's part of the gang, the bikers gang, to sleep.
Well, it's done like, I guess the part is like, it's meant to be like kind of definitely the bikers are meant to be very physically intimidating. And the first biker comes up and he says, "Yeah, why don't we get the kid?" He takes the younger guy, and he's like, "No, he's too small. Take this guy here, basically sweetback." And they take the head biker is masked, basically wears the biker's helmet during. So the head biker comes up, tall biker, like lifts up a motorcycle and like throws a knife, and basically they say, so which, how do you want to feud? Do you want to like wrestle? Do you want a fist fight? Do you want a knife fight? Basically, like, what do you want to do to feud? So, and he's there, and he has no, I guess, he's pretty quiet. He's not saying anything. He's taking it all in. That's what he does. That's what his character does throughout the film. And the biker, this big biker, now takes off the helmet, and long, flowing red hair comes out of the helmet. It's the leader of their band is a female biker, a huge female biker. And at the time, he says, "Well, so what is it?" And he's like, he doesn't say this word, but like another word, euphemism for it, but he says sex, basically. And that's what happens, is they kind of like make a biker circle around, and they're pretty sure that he can't best this, their biker girl in when it comes to sex, and he does. Good job, Sweetback, there, I guess, and that's, and so they give him and Mumu a place to stay. They give him like one of their hideouts.
So you think that after what had happened, that they would kind of help them out, and they do. They take them into a hideout, but really, as they put them into that hideout, they you hear them say, oh, "Well, did you make the call?" or something like that. So you know that they're gonna get betrayed. So and they do.
Yeah.
So then the police, the sheriff of that area comes in, and wants to arrest Sweetback and Mumu. There's a fight. Sweetback kills the two cops, but not before one of the cops badly injures Mumu. So they're at a moment where Sweetback is trying to help out, to help Mumu so that they can escape. And then there's this guy who shows up. What's his name again?
John Amos, the guy from would be in shows like On the Family, and we'll later get the spinoff from On the Family as well.
Yeah, so he shows up and he's basically sent by someone to help them out or help Sweetback out. He has a motorcycle, but he says to Sweetback that he's only there to help him, not Mumu, because he's on the bike and he can only help out one of them. And then Sweetback just says, you have to take him, not me. And his explanation, because the guy, kind of says, well, why? I should be taking you. I was sent to help you. And he says, well, he's the future. So again, putting this emphasis on youth, on black youth, who is a new generation who needs to survive in order to change things. So off they go, and then Sweetback is again on the run. So he keeps running. He's still being chased, and then you have so the police is still looking for him in the city. And one thing that we talked about, and when we were talking about this before we were filming, is how interesting the portrayal of the law was very interesting to me, because you could see there were two sides of the law. You have the on the job people on the street, the cops on the street, who were very brutal, very racist, and obviously the movie's really, the chase started with them wanting to take a black guy, any guy, to pretend that he's a suspect. So you have that side. And then you have the side of the head of the police that fall under this pressure from the general public about being fair. So it's an interesting view that tells us what time period we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're talking about a period where civil rights are really happening. But they're happening. So it was not just the Black Panthers. They were considered, even then, they were considered to be the extremists for African Americans. But it was interesting to see that the police chief was under pressure from the general public. Newspapers, journalists, which means that it was at the time where civil rights were looked at by the white elite as something that needed to happen. So down the gritty side, on the streets, there was none of that. Still, things were as business as usual, the abuse, and but at the top, for the newspapers and the elite and the intellectuals, yes, we needed to have civil rights. Yes, we needed to treat black people particularly the good way. So you see the hypocrisy even of the system during that time, where there was a push around civil rights, where people didn't really believe that, and everybody was pretending, because it was the right thing to do. Some people thought it was the right thing to do. Maybe the Black Panthers were well, according to the director, at least, were the ones that really wanted the right thing, but everybody else was just playing into something that was fashionable or out of pressures. So that was an interesting, look at how he was looking at
Well, yeah, basically, it's not just like it's not it's not just the I guess what we call now the alt right or whatever. Like it wouldn't be just the like the racist aspect, like what you would assume, but it would be also like kind of like the people that you would assume to be like the more like enlightened, like the liberals are actually still holding on to to the bot, and this was like literally said by the writer of the film.
I don't want to be. I certainly do not want to get political.
Oh no,
on this at all.
No,
but
I don't mean it that way. But I mean like
but
like
you can,
in the day. I mean like that's what the director, but the writer of the film said that he looked at these liberal friends and he said everything seemed great, but they still held on to like a lot of bigoted biases. So a lot of it was pretty much just seemed to him to be like face, which was just face value. Was surface.
It was interesting to talk about when you had cocktails.
Yeah, so it didn't matter like what side of the fence you're on, like politically, that the biases and the bigotry was still there.
Yeah, the reality was that life was no different for a lot of African Americans, and the police brutality that happened then. Yeah. But the reason why I said I didn't want to get political is that this could also fit today, where police brutality is what it is in America, especially around minorities in certain cases. But again, there's a front that no, we don't do that, everything's fine, we don't profile anybody, we don't you know what I mean. So has things changed? Yeah, a lot of things changed, but really underneath we're still having a social justice debate, but not really doing any change on the ground where it should be. The perceptions, the biases, there's underneath.
Well, let's just say there still has a lot of work to be done.
Oh, obviously. So, anyways, moving on from that, because there's going to be a lot of comments and thumbs down.
Actually, I'm probably going to because this is more of a charged one. More than likely, I'm just going to disable the comments, just so you know.
Oh, I don't care.
Because I don't want to, because I want to have like an academic conversation about the film, and I don't want that to get marred by like any trolling or that type of comments in the section down below. So more than likely, for that reason, I'm going to disable the comments.
I really don't care.
Oh no, I want people to be able to come and watch the video and not have to worry about like reading nasty. One thing I hate is when I go into when I go to read a news article, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'll get through it, and then there's a comment section down below, and it totally ruins the thing for me. This is about film.
Yes,
we're going to keep it like that.
It's about film. It is about my opinion.
Yeah,
and my experiences.
And this is a film with a strong social commentary. So that's something that is going to be talked about in this film. And to make sure that we can actually do that in a way that a person can come on and watch this video tomorrow or in 5 or 10 years, hopefully if it's still there, and enjoy it, we're going to enjoy it with admiring their experience.
So that was again something that I thought was interesting into how he the perception of the police, but also by proxy the elite, and how they were they were using the civil rights movement, and then he as he's going away, trying to escape, leaving the city. So you see a shift from that hypocritical way that the police was handling the situation, still chasing him. They still wanted him dead or alive, that didn't change. As a matter of fact, they do find, or they kill a few people. And there's a scene where the police walks in or breaks into this apartment with this black guy with this white girl. They're having sex. They jump on the guy, separate him from the woman, and start beating him up, and I think to the point maybe even kill him. And they beat him up first, and he's almost dead. And they look at him then, and somebody asks, "Is this him? Is this Sweetback?" And one of them answers and says, "Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's just a black guy, so let's just bring him in." And then we see, unfortunately, they bring a few people who knew Sweetback to the morgue to identify bodies, and you see Mumu's corpse in one of the slabs, and they ask they ask the person to identify the body
Vito.
to see if yeah, that's the pimp. They ask him to look at the second body to see if it is Sweetback, and you look and you see that basically that's the person that was helping
John Amos.
so who came in to help